So welcome to another SEC schedule preview. This time it is going to be the schedule preview of the Alabama Crimson Tide, the team that has ruled the roost in the SEC for many, many years. You know, they're always kind of known for having an easy schedule. I think it's kind of basically the same this year, a pretty easy schedule for the most part. A lot of cupcake games. They have the week 1 game where they face kind of an average team. This year it's Duke. They usually crush that team in week 1. That's how Alabama usually starts off their year, with a lot of momentum. Before we get into the video, I want to make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Especially comment down below. I would love to carry on conversations with you guys down in the comments below. I'd love to get you guys' feedback. To kind of just, with anything, just critiquing the channel, my videos. I would love it to be respectfully, of course. I don't want you guys cursing me out in the comments because you didn't like the record that I gave Alabama. But, respectful kind of back and forth, I would really enjoy that. So if you guys disagree with me or agree with me, make sure to comment down below. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So Alabama usually starts off their season in a neutral site game, usually against kind of an average, mostly ACC team. Last year it was Louisville. This year it is Duke. I think it's going to be basically the same situation as it was last year. Alabama destroys the ACC team. Maybe if Duke had Daniel Jones, it'd actually be somewhat of an entertaining game, but it's not going to be. I think Alabama will win 56-7, kind of similar to the Louisville game last year, just close for maybe the first quarter, and then it's just an all-out blowout. Alabama impresses in week 1. What else would you expect? It's classic Nick Saban, and it is classic Alabama. So Alabama has a cupcake game in their home opener against New Mexico State. New Mexico State, isn't that bad compared to a bunch of cupcake teams, but they're nowhere near Alabama, obviously. Alabama gets the win, obviously, 52-0, as they go 2-0 on the year. And it looks like it's going to be another traditional Alabama season under Nick Saban, and it will be. So Alabama heads on the road for the first time this season, and also in, I believe, the SEC CBS opener to face South Carolina. I went over this game in more depth in my South Carolina video, but in the end, I think South Carolina will crumble in the big-time game against a big-time opponent in Alabama. Usually this on early in the season, Alabama doesn't lose. It's usually later on when teams can kind of make more of competition. But Alabama at the start of the year is usually when they're at their best. They have more time to play in games and all that stuff, and they're healthy. So usually at the start of the year, Nick Saban's Tide are the best. And I think South Carolina is going to get pummeled into the dirt here against Alabama, 45-10. It's a beatdown. Alabama now heads 3-0 on the year. So yet another cupcake game for Alabama. It's Southern Miss. Southern Miss has actually had success against SEC teams like Tennessee and Kentucky. But here's the very small difference. Alabama's not Kentucky or Tennessee. They're not losing, and they're not even going to have a competitive matchup with Southern Miss. Alabama's going to come in here, get 4-0 in the year, take care of Southern Miss easily, 49-7, and prove that they are not a team that's going to be toyed around with by some lesser team like Southern Miss. They're not Kentucky, they're not Tennessee, they're not any team that has trouble with these smaller schools. Alabama usually takes care of business, and they do again against Southern Miss. So Alabama stays at home, I believe, to face Ole Miss here in Week 5. Ole Miss and Alabama, Ole Miss hasn't had any success against Alabama except for those 2 years in 2014 and 2015, I believe, when Ole Miss beat Bama back-to-back years. But ever since, it's just been Bama blowing out Ole Miss, and I think it'll be the same. I think Ole Miss offense will score some points, not a lot, but Bama's offense is just going to absolutely humiliate the Ole Miss defense, and Alabama wins 62-17 in just a scoring fest, basically just Tua throwing bombs almost every single play and just making this Ole Miss defense look like a bunch of preschoolers out there just running around. So, Alabama, there's no way that they even have a competitive game with Ole Miss. Ole Miss is just, I'm a big believer in Ole Miss this year. I don't think they're actually that bad from a talent perspective, but it's Alabama, it's Ole Miss. What more do I need to say? So I have dropped this on a couple of occasions, just, kind of little hints in some of my other videos. I have said on a couple of occasions that I believe Texas A&M will defeat Alabama in the 2019 season. I think Jimbo Fisher will finally get the better of Nick Saban. I'm getting kind of flashbacks of a Johnny Manziel Alabama situation here, just with Kellen Mond. They're kind of similar quarterbacks, except Kellen Mond's, a lot more quiet. He's not as divisive or polarizing, whatever word you want to say. And I'm getting kind of those flashbacks. Great coach, and Jimbo Fisher, one of the few coaches in the SEC that can keep up with Nick Saban in every aspect: recruiting, game management, adjusting, game planning, developing, just hiring staff, exciting up his players, motivating his players. And I think it's going to be in a very, very loud Texas A&M crowd, and I'm going to give Texas A&M the 35-30 victory in Jimbo Fisher's time at Texas A&M. This will be his biggest win so far. This is the defining win for this Texas A&M program, and this program will lean back on this win for many, many years to come. This is the one game that I think Bama has the best shot to lose out of this season. So I'm giving the win in an upset victory with a crazy Texas A&M crowd. It's going to be one of those moments where the crowd floods the field, no go down in history. So Texas A&M defeats Alabama. Alabama heads back home in a bad mood, and you know that they're just going to come out with a vengeance against Tennessee. I'm a big Tennessee believer, but Tennessee's not going to beat Alabama, especially Alabama coming off of a loss. Alabama beats Tennessee 45-10. If you want a deeper analysis, go check out my Tennessee video. But basically, Alabama, Tennessee, Alabama's mad. Yeah, what else do I need to say? Bama beats Tennessee 45-10, and they prove that they are not going anywhere in the SEC run. So Alabama now faces Arkansas here later on in the year, and it's kind of in a weird way, kind of an Ole Miss situation. It's basically very, very similar teams. It's basically an Alabama offense fest every single year. Alabama blowing out these two teams, putting up 60 points, while the other team just makes their defense looks like chicken with their heads just got cut off. It's bad every single year, and it's going to remain that way. Alabama beats Ole Miss 62-17. They beat Arkansas 55-3. I mean, it's basic stuff. It happens almost every year, and it's going to happen this year once again. So a huge game here is Alabama is at home against one of their biggest rivals, LSU. This game is always kind of, or it used to be, especially when Les Miles was there, a low-scoring physical football game. Now it's just kind of LSU hanging in it for 3 quarters, then Alabama kind of stretching for a 2 or 3 possession lead. Last year, Alabama won 29-0. I think they're going to win again this year. I think LSU puts up a little bit of a better fight, but again, I don't really think LSU has much of a chance to defeat Alabama. I have kind of reconsidered. Last time in my LSU video, I said I thought they'd lose 30-3. I'm going to bump them up by a touchdown, 30-10. Doesn't make much difference if I'm being completely honest, but I don't think I gave LSU's offense enough credit. But I still believe Alabama's just way better than LSU. I think I got a dislike on my LSU video, which I found funny. It's probably an LSU fan that didn't like what I said, which I can get why they didn't like what I said. If I was an LSU fan, I would have liked what I said either. I basically just said that Bama is the older brother to LSU, and I stand by my statement. So Alabama defeats LSU 30-10. So Alabama heads back on the road to face an SEC West foe in Mississippi State. So when Dan Mullen was at Mississippi State, they would actually have pretty entertaining games. It would be a close game almost every single year. But now that they have, in my opinion, a way worse coach and a way worse quarterback, Alabama takes care of Mississippi State. They have a lot of momentum coming into this game because their win over LSU. I think they fuel that to get another big win over another SEC West opponent in Mississippi State, 38-7. I just don't think Mississippi State has the offense or the defense, quite frankly, to keep with Alabama. In the kind of cupcake cushion game between Mississippi State and Auburn, Alabama faces, I believe, Western Carolina is their name. I haven't heard this team before, so if it's not Western Carolina, I'm going to look really stupid. So correct me down in the comments below if it's not Western Carolina, but I'm pretty sure it is. Alabama's going to beat Western Carolina 55-3. It's pretty simple. Alabama hardly ever gets competitive with lower tier teams like this. They were competitive with the Citadel, like 10-10 at halftime, and then Alabama scored like 60 points in a matter of 5 minutes, and then they got out of hand. But I think Alabama's going to beat Western Carolina 55-3, building momentum, or even more momentum than they already have to go into the Auburn game. So they end off the year in the Iron Bowl, one of the biggest rivalries in college football history. I think it'll be kind of a classic case of a game kind of dominated by one team, but one team scores just enough to make it look close. I think that team that scores enough to just make it to be close will be Auburn, and Alabama will be the team that dominates. I think Alabama will win 35-24. I think it will be actually a more competitive game than it was last year, but I think Auburn will kind of score like a touchdown like at the last play or something to actually make it look like a really competitive game. But I think it will be decently competitive, a lot more watchable of a game than it was last year. Last year was just a beat down after the first half. This time I think Auburn's more equipped to be competitive with Alabama, even though I don't think that they have a realistic shot of beating them. So Alabama ends off the year 11-1, and if Texas A&M does not only lose one game, if they lose multiple games in SEC play, Alabama is heading back to the SEC championship. So it's another kind of traditional year for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Alabama loses one game like every other year. It's kind of a transition. One year they'll lose one game, then they go 12-0, 11-1, 12-0, 11-1, 12-0. It's kind of the routine for Alabama. I think they went 12-0 last year, and they will go 11-1 this year. It's not really a down year by any means. I think they are still the best team in the SEC by a decent margin. I won't say by a decent margin, but by a noticeable margin. Nick Saban's just too good to be really have a down year, like go 9-3 or 8-4. They're always either going 11-1 or 12-0 until he retires. But this has been your boy Fanatic. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my other videos. Just take a second, breathe, enjoy life, go hug the loved ones. Father's Day's coming up. Make sure you guys spend good time with your dad if you are able to, and have an amazing day. Make the best out of today or tomorrow and for the week going up ahead. I love you guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.